Hello again, everyone. Well done for making it through the morning session. I found it fascinating. And thank you also to Catherine, to all of you here for watching Politico's Competitive Europe Summit here in Brussels, and those of you tuning in online. I'm Doug Busvine, the trade editor at Politico Europe. Well, the third stream of the Competitive Europe Summit is drawing to an end. And we've heard from panelists on how Europe is rethinking its relationship with the USA, building new commercial relationships with other parts of the world, and redirecting its investment power to new sectors to build in-house economic growth. Well, I've got a few takeaways, and I've got to admit I'm stealing shamelessly from our excellent live blog, which I would really recommend that you take a look at. So we kicked off this morning in Camille Geiss's session on trade, with Matthias Jürgensen from the Commission saying, yeah, we're going to get a Mercosur deal signed in time for Christmas. That's been a long time coming. We had a scoop on that earlier this week, so it's nice to hear confirmation from someone who should know. Matthias Jürgensen is the point person for trade talks with the US and Canada. Yeah, also quite a feisty panel with Malte Lohen from the AmCham, taking a swing at the Turnberry Agreement, saying it's not an ideal scenario. Some might put it more strongly than that. But he also saw the positives. No deal would have meant 30% US tariffs, plus getting on for 100 billion in EU trade retaliation. And that would have spelled a spiral of escalation that really nobody wanted. Coming back to Matthias Jürgensen, I think there was concern expressed there about Donald Trump's attitude towards steel, widening the range of products that are subject to steel duties. That's something that the EU is looking at pretty closely, as we're also on the brink of putting in our own restrictions and new tariffs there. Just skimming through, going to Antonia Zimmermann's panel there, we had some interesting views from the near abroad. So the Turkish ambassador, Faruk Kaymakçı, expressed some frustration that the customs union with the EU is over 30 years old, or 30 years or so old. Time for an overhaul, but it's just not going anywhere. And also, some frustration expressed that the EU is not really involving Turkey, a NATO member, remember, in its discussions around energy, what to do about Russia. So that's quite important, and I think worth noting. From Kerry Morgan, the UK's trade lead. Yeah, she's welcomed the new chapter since that summit in May where they kicked things off again, calling for greater dialogue. Moving on to Gregorio Sorgi's panel on the long-term budget. Yeah, I was particularly interested by the Polish representative's concerns about diverting funds to competitiveness and maybe away from cohesion, and whether some of the less affluent parts of the EU might end up losing out to the powerhouses. I also, wearing my other hat as agriculture editor, couldn't help pricking up my ears when Jan Straski of the OECD said, we really need to rationalize the common agricultural policy. Does it really support farms where the money is most needed? We need to simplify the cap for recipients and administrators. And our corporate guest from Lilly, that's Marcel Le Chanteur. Yeah, he looked through some of the rhetoric and the contortions we're seeing on tariffs from Trump to make the point that it takes us several years to build manufacturing sites. It takes months to get regulatory approval. So we don't make those decisions in short order. But what he does say is that by any standard, the US regulatory decisions go much faster than in the EU. Well, you've just heard Catherine's interview and panel, so I won't reprise that. But what I will say before we break for lunch is to thank our speakers who participated this morning, as well as our moderators and crew. I'd also like to thank our partners for making the summit possible. So here we go again. Leading partners are ASML, Bayer, FPA, and Google. The presenting partners are Lilly, DP World, Revolut, and Santander. And the knowledge partner is the McKinsey Global Institute. We've had lots of food for thought this morning. Now we'll have actual food. Outside, we have a networking lunch set up to run. I guess we're running a few minutes late, but we should aspire, if possible, to get back by around 1:30. And I'd like to remind you that you can come and meet our product teams in the networking space. Our reporters, some of them are still running around chasing scoops, so please connect them with them when you can. And this afternoon, we'll turn our attention to Europe's strategy. A deeply important conversation and one that's been keeping EU decision makers awake at night. So let's talk about that. Have a wonderful lunch and happy networking, and see you afterwards. Thank you.
Are united in diversity. We are very heterogeneous in our opinion.
We are doing this in our open democracies. Discussion is all open and loud, and I'm not for that.
What is European Union?